All right, let's dive in. Today, we're taking a deep dive into user reviews for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2, that grand finale of the film series. We've got a ton of opinions from fans, people who've basically grown up alongside Harry, Ron, and Hermione. And you'll find everything from those who just absolutely loved the film to those who, well, maybe expected a bit more magic.
Yeah, it is interesting, right? It's not just a standalone film we're looking at, but the
Right.
culmination of this massive story that's been woven into the lives of so many viewers. So it's
Yeah.
really fascinating to see how all those expectations, those years of investment play out in their reactions.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing a ton of reviews calling it like a truly satisfying end to the saga. Words like otherworldly, a perfect ending, a cinematic high even are popping up all over the place. One person even declared it the best film of 2011. What do you make of all this positive energy?
Hmm. Well, I think it really speaks to the filmmaker's ability to deliver on that emotional closure fans were craving.
Hmm.
A lot of reviewers specifically praise how certain character arcs wrapped up. And that sense of completion, I think, is a big driver of this, positive sentiment.
So it's not just about those cool spells and epic battles. It's about feeling like the journey, like emotionally paid off in the end.
Exactly. And that's not easy to pull off, especially
Yeah.
for a franchise with such, a devoted following.
Oh, for sure. Speaking of a devoted following, a lot of these reviewers I'm seeing are clearly diehard fans of the books. They're really weighing in on how well the film, represents J.K. Rowling's vision.
Ah, yes. The age-old adaptation debate. You're never going to please everyone, right?
Right.
Some felt the filmmakers, did a really great job capturing the essence of the book, even if they had to, condense some parts. Others felt like some crucial details were left out.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a few comments about those missing scenes. Someone specifically mentioned Molly Weasley's duel with Bellatrix, and apparently it was a lot more, intense in the book.
Right, right. And there's another comment, wishing we'd gotten more of Snape's backstory. But, on the flip side, some argue that streamlining certain aspects actually helped keep the pacing tight.
So it sounds like a real balance, right, between staying true to the source material and crafting a film that works on its own terms.
Exactly. And it leads to some interesting questions. What makes an adaptation truly successful? Is it about, strict fidelity to the source or capturing the spirit of the story while making necessary adjustments for the screen?
And how much does the director's vision play into that? David Yates, who directed this film and the three before it, definitely put his own stamp on the series.
Absolutely. But let's move from the director to the actors, yeah. The main trio, Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson, they're getting a ton of praise, especially Radcliffe, for his portrayal of Harry facing his destiny. What stands out to you about their performances?
I think it's incredible to see how they've evolved as actors over the course of the series. The audience has literally watched them grow up, which adds this, layer of emotional depth to their performances in this final film.
Yeah, it's like we've experienced the journey alongside them,
Yeah.
making the finale all the more impactful.
For sure, for sure. And speaking of impactful performances, we can't forget Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort. He's absolutely chilling. But it seems like one performance in particular had captured the hearts and minds of many viewers.
Alan Rickman as Snape. Reviewers are calling it emotionally resonant, even Oscar-worthy. They point to the complexity he brings to the character, especially in those pivotal flashback scenes.
Yeah, one review called Rickman's performance unforgettable and piercingly emotional. They said he, and I quote, elevates his portrayal of one of the most complex characters in young adult literature.
Would you say tissues are a requirement for the Snape scenes?
Let's just say you might want to brace yourself for some unexpected feels. Rickman delivers a performance that stays with you.
Okay, mental note made. Now, from what I'm gathering, one of the film's biggest strengths is its visual spectacle. We're talking epic battles, stunning effects, the whole shebang. But what are people saying about it specifically?
Well, a lot of reviewers are comparing the Battle of Hogwarts scenes to those in Lord of the Rings, praising the special effects for their believability and how they heighten the drama. Even the 3D is getting some love.
Wow, the 3D. That's saying something. One person said the filmmakers, quote, intertwined heart-stopping action with dramatic progressions in the narrative, making it even, quote, more visceral and dynamic than the book. Another called the visuals truly Oscar-worthy, pointing out the time and effort that went into creating them. It's interesting to consider how the adaptation process allowed the filmmakers to create a truly cinematic experience, you know? They took creative liberties, yes, but in a way that resonated with a lot of viewers.
So it's not just about translating the book word for word. It's about finding a visual language that brings the story to life in a new way.
Precisely. And from what I'm seeing, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 largely succeeds in doing just that.
Now, all this talk about visuals and spectacle, but we can't forget the emotional core of the film. Many reviewers were deeply moved, sharing stories of, like, tears and nostalgia.
Yeah.
What do you think is driving this emotional response?
It's a culmination of so many things, right? The themes explored in this film, good versus evil, facing adulthood, confronting death, they resonate deeply with viewers. But there's also the factor of saying goodbye to characters we've come to know and love.
One reviewer said watching the film brought home the impact of, like, how much the series has touched their life and the lives of those around them. They actually felt a more profound connection after seeing the story play out on screen than they did after reading the book.
That's a testament to the power of cinema, I think, to amplify emotions and create a shared experience. It also speaks to the communal aspect of fandom, where individual experiences are enriched by the collective passion of others.
Absolutely. And speaking of shared experiences, so many reviewers are talking about the nostalgia of watching these characters they've grown up with, like, reach the end of their journey. It's bittersweet, but there's also a sense of closure.
It's a reminder that even the most epic journeys, eventually come to an end. But the memories and the impact of those journeys, they stay with us.
One reviewer even described the series as, quote, the most important of my life, saying they, quote, owe my childhood to it. That's quite a statement.
It speaks to the enduring legacy of the Harry Potter universe. It's not just entertainment. It's become a cultural touchstone, shaping the imaginations and even the values of a generation.
Okay, we've talked about the good, the magical, the tear-jerking, but what about the not so good? Even with all this praise, there are some dissenting voices. Some reviewers felt the film relied too heavily on spectacle, lacking the depth and explanation found in the book.
Yeah, that's a valid point. It's a constant challenge, right? When adapting a complex book to film, how do you balance action and exposition without overwhelming the viewer? Some might feel that certain aspects were glossed over or left unexplained.
For example, some felt the final confrontation between Harry and Voldemort was a bit underwhelming. One even said the ending, quote, doesn't follow through with necessary consequences. Another missed the speech that Harry gives in the book, saying they, quote, loved that part.
It seems those viewers were hoping for a more nuanced or extended climax. Perhaps they felt the emotional weight of the moment wasn't fully realized on screen.
Then there are some strong reactions, like the reviewer who said the director, quote, managed to kill the end of the series. And another called it a, quote, poor excuse for a film, feeling unsatisfied and cheated.
Those are certainly strong opinions. It highlights the subjective nature of art and how individual interpretations can vary, wildly.
It seems some had very, very specific expectations that weren't met.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that while film adaptations can bring a story to life in a visually stunning way, they also have to make choices about what to include and what to leave behind.
Someone even commented that even though they split the last book into 2 films, they still, quote, missed 14 of the story.
Oh, the eternal dilemma of adaptation. You can't fit everything in, so sometimes viewers are left feeling like something's missing.
It's a balancing act, that's for sure. And it seems Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 sparked a lot of debate about where that balance lies. But before we delve further into that, I want to throw this question out to you. What's your take on adapting a beloved book series for the big screen? It seems like such a daunting task.
It certainly is, and it's a question we can explore further in Part 2. For now, I'd say that adaptation is this delicate dance between honoring the source material and creating something new. There will always be challenges and compromises. The key is to approach the process with respect for both the original work and the medium of film, striving to capture the essence of the story in a way that resonates with the audience.
That's a great way to put it. Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Before we jumped into all those, magical details, we were talking about adapting a beloved book series like Harry Potter for the big screen. And looking at these reviews, it's clear that Deathly Hallows Part 2 faced some unique hurdles. I mean, we're talking about wrapping up a 7-book saga with, a massive fan base, sky-high expectations. It's a lot to juggle.
Oh, absolutely. The filmmakers had this really daunting task of satisfying those existing fans, right? While
Right.
also potentially introducing newcomers to this incredibly intricate world. It's a delicate balancing act, to say the least, and one that inevitably involves some tough choices.
And we see that reflected in these reviews, right? Some viewers felt certain elements were rushed or left unexplained. Others, wished for scenes from the book that didn't make the cut. And then there are those who just, felt the film strayed a bit too far from the material. It's fascinating, though, isn't it? Because even the criticisms I'm noticing, they often stem from a place of deep affection for the story. These viewers are so invested in the world of Harry Potter, they want to see it represented faithfully. But they also recognize, I think, the limitations of translating a book to a different medium. It sparks an interesting question, doesn't it?
It does. What does make a successful adaptation? I mean, is there a magic formula?
Oh, if only it were that simple. There's no, one-size-fits-all answer, of course.
Yes.
But I think a key factor is capturing the soul of that source material, even if it means making changes to the plot or structure. It's about translating the heart of the story in a way that feels cinematic, feels engaging, but without betraying the essence of that original work.
That reminds me of a review we touched on earlier, actually. The reviewer felt the filmmakers created something more visceral and dynamic than the book. They cleverly blended that action with the progression of the narrative, and for them, the changes actually amplified the story.
Exactly. Successful adaptations, they often find ways to leverage the strengths of film to enhance that emotional impact, right? Visual storytelling, music, sound design, all these elements, they work together to create this immersive experience that complements the source material, not just replicates it.
So it's not just about checking boxes and including every scene or character. It's about crafting a cinematic experience that can stand on its own while still, honoring the spirit of the book.
Precisely. And from the reactions we're seeing, it seems like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 manages to achieve that for many viewers. The words epic end, perfect ending, even feeling like a part of this world pop up quite a bit.
It sounds like the film truly resonated with a lot of people.
It did. And I think that speaks volumes about the power of storytelling, really.
Yeah.
A well-crafted narrative, it can transcend the page or the screen and connect with us on a really profound level.
We've talked a lot about the visual spectacle, the adaptation debate, but what really struck me was the sheer number of reviewers who mentioned the emotional impact of this film. I mean, we're seeing everything from tears of sadness to tears of joy, nostalgia. Why do you think this film evoked such strong emotions?
It's a culmination of factors, wouldn't you say? That the themes at play, good versus evil, that transition to adulthood, the reality of death, these are universal, deeply resonant themes. But there's also the emotional weight, right, of saying goodbye to characters who feel like old friends. I mean, you've spent years, maybe even decades with these characters, witnessing their growth, their struggles, their triumphs, and it's a shared experience that creates this really powerful bond between the audience and the story.
It's like closing a chapter, not just in the characters' lives, but in your own life as well. One reviewer perfectly encapsulated that feeling, saying, "End of an era, end of our childhoods, end of Harry Potter."
A poignant observation, yeah.
Yeah.
And that sense of closure is incredibly important. It allows viewers to process their emotions, say
Yeah.
goodbye, and move forward with a sense of satisfaction, knowing that the journey has reached a meaningful conclusion. But speaking of moving forward, what do you think this film and the series as a whole says about the enduring magic, of the Harry Potter universe?
It's amazing to see how, even years later, this film sparks conversations, right?
Right.
About storytelling, adaptation, and the power of imagination.
It's a testament to the film's ability to engage on multiple levels, really. It's a visual feast, it's an emotional roller coaster, and it's a thought-provoking exploration of these universal themes. It's no wonder it continues to captivate and elicit such passionate responses.
One reviewer mentioned how this series helped them appreciate humanist drama amidst all the, quote, fantastical genre sparkle. That really resonated with me. It suggests that even in this world of magic and wonder, there's something profoundly human at its core.
Precisely. And I think that's why the Harry Potter universe has touched so many people. It offers an escape, but it also delves into these universal experiences: love, loss, friendship, courage. It makes it relatable to viewers of all ages and backgrounds.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm curious if you could ask J.K. Rowling one question about the Harry Potter universe, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So many possibilities. But I think I'd ask about the characters' lives after the epilogue. We get a glimpse of their future, but I'm always left wanting more, you know. What challenges did they face? How did they continue to shape the wizarding world? What do you think?
That's a great question. It speaks to our desire to see these characters continue to thrive even after the story has ended. But before we get lost in hypotheticals, let's shift gears for a moment. We've covered a lot of ground,
Yeah.
from adaptation challenges to emotional impact. As we move into the final part of our deep dive, what are some key takeaways you'd like our listener to consider?
Yeah, it really is amazing to see how even all these years later, this film sparks so many conversations.
Yeah.
About storytelling, adaptation, the power of imagination.
It is. It's a real testament to the film's ability to engage on so many different levels. It's a visual feast, it's an emotional roller coaster, and it's a thought-provoking exploration of these, universal themes. No wonder it continues to captivate and elicit such passionate responses. Absolutely. And before we wrap things up, I'd love to touch on a few key takeaways that have emerged from our deep dive into these reviews. One thing that keeps coming up is this idea that the film delivers on multiple levels. We've got the action, the emotions, stunning visuals, and of course a satisfying conclusion to this epic saga. It's a lot to pack into one film.
It is, and I think it's a testament to the filmmakers' understanding of the source material and their respect for the fans. They managed to capture that essence of the story while also creating a cinematic experience that's both thrilling and emotionally resonant. They had to make tough choices, especially when adapting such a beloved and complex book, but they seem to have struck a chord with a lot of viewers.
Yeah, and one of the elements that really stands out in these reviews is Alan Rickman's performance as Snape. I mean, people are calling it the standout performance of the film, praising its complexity and emotional depth. I have to say, I completely agree.
Oh yeah, Rickman's portrayal of Snape is truly a masterclass in subtle acting. He brings such a depth of emotion to the character. It's both heartbreaking and unforgettable. The kind of performance that stays with you long after the credits roll. He really embodies the complexity of Snape, a character who is flawed, even cruel at times, but ultimately driven by a deep and tragic love.
One reviewer said that Rickman, and I quote, elevates his portrayal of one of the most complex characters in young adult literature to an unforgettable, piercingly emotional one.
Hmm.
I mean, could you have said it better yourself?
Not a chance.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant summation of his performance, and it speaks to the power of a well-crafted character. Snape is someone you love to hate and hate to love, and Rickman he captures that duality with a nuance that is simply breathtaking.
So as we come to the end of our deep dive into Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2, what final thoughts would you like to leave with our listener?
I think the biggest takeaway here is to never underestimate the power of a good story. Stories have a way of shaping how we see the world, inspiring us to be better people and reminding us that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope. The story of Harry Potter with its enduring themes of friendship, courage, love is a shining example of that. It's a story that continues to resonate with audiences, offering comfort, escapism, and perhaps even a roadmap for navigating the challenges of our own lives.
Beautifully said. And as always, thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed exploring these user reviews and uncovering the many layers of meaning and emotion that Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 evokes, even all these years later.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you. And to our listener, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking out the stories that speak to your heart.